Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Backstick Podcast. I'm Jamil Roberts, and I'm joined here as usual by Dom Okus. Dom, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good brother. It's been a little minute. I feel like we've been starving the fans. I know they're going to be happy to hear that we're back in the studio. Super busy time for me at work and stuff, and it's roasting in Austin right now. Yesterday I was wearing shorts to work because for our American fans it was 100 Fahrenheit. If you're from the UK, that's 38 Celsius, 40 Celsius,
Mate,
something
can
like
you
that.
imagine that in England, by the way? Be riots.
Absolutely filthy. But before I introduce our guest, I do just want to say if you've been rocking with us, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Make sure you're liking, commenting, subscribing, all that stuff. And if you're new here, I'm telling you, just click the like button now. Subscribe now because this is going to be a banger. But I'm really looking forward to this conversation. We've got SKC's number 1. Don Pulskamp, welcome to the pod, man. How you doing?
What's up? I'm doing all right, man. Thanks for having me on. Jamil,
Yes.
good to see you again. Dom, it's a pleasure.
Yeah,
Yeah, looking forward to chatting with you boys.
Yeah, mate,
yeah.
it's always a pleasure, mate. Always a pleasure. And, I mean, just to kind of, for those who aren't familiar, first and foremost, John, from a personal standpoint, he's a good lad. He is the best goalkeeper I've ever played with,
Oh, cheers,
and
bro. Cheers.
he's seeing his flowers now, the fruits of his labour. He's as Dom said, Sporting KC's number 1 after Tim Melia's retirement. So I guess we'll just kick it off there, mate. Like, how does that feel?
Yeah,
I know, you've always been someone who's put in the hard yards, the work behind closed doors. You're always in the gym, doing the little bits after training. Finally seeing all those years of hard graft,
yeah, yeah. No,
showing
look,
now.
man. Yeah, look, I think you summed it up perfectly. I was with you in those early years where it was nothing but grinding and not a lot. Not always a lot to be rewarded with, especially being a goalkeeper, being in that position. It's such a tough position because you don't know when your opportunities are coming and whatnot, and you're just working towards something that you have to just trust that down the road it's gonna pay off. And yeah, thankfully it has, at least thus far. And coming into this season, yeah, first season as the outright number 1.
Yeah,
Was behind a club legend in Tim Melia for so long, which was great. I learned so much from the guy. Great guy.
yeah, top
Just
in it.
top dude. Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah,
know him, and just such a good dude on and off the field. Just a good dude to work with and be around. But he will be the first to tell you that I wasn't satisfied with just being a number 2. I was always pushing, trying to take the job off of him.
mm,
And we had that relationship where that was fine. We were working together. We both wanted to be playing, and he was the guy for a long time, and has done so much in his career. So now that kind of changing of the guard has finally happened, and yeah, I'm just trying to soak it all in because goes by fast. It goes by fast. It seems like just a couple months ago, me and you were out playing together and,
yeah, I
and,
know.
and hanging out, and now it's, I mean, what, how many years has it been
I
since you
think
left
this
Kansas
is
City?
I think it's 5 years now, 4 or 5
Has it
years.
been five?
I think it was
That's
2021.
21,
So no,
21.
4 years,
So
4 years.
4 years, but still, man, it seems
It's
like it
gone by like
was.
that, innit?
It seems like yesterday. It
Yeah,
seems seriously like
yeah.
just how quickly things roll. So
But
I'm just trying to live in the moment now, man.
yeah, I don't blame you. And like we were talking
Uh,
before we started recording here, weren't we? And like, I mean,
uh,
I think obviously I was only at the club for a year, but consider myself very fortunate that we had a very, very not only good as in good players, but the young core like
yeah,
back in those years that
yeah,
came up through the academy that I like obviously got drafted into. But
yeah,
like I just felt like I fit in right away with the boys, and it like yeah, I think that like although we were all pushing for the same goal, like it was good to be surrounded by you know 8 or 9 other lads that all pulling in the same direction. You kind of like had each other's backs as well. Like it was class, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it really was, and that was like such an interesting time in Kansas City because it was exactly you said. We had this larger group, of 6, 7, 8, 9 younger guys that were, all trying to break into the first, get minutes on the field here and there, and trying to I guess find their place in the team. So we were all just kind of in this boat together, kind of on the fringes, of
Yeah.
the first team, but just grinding away. And there was an older team at the time. You had a team of guys that had 10, 15-year careers that you're trying to take their spot. It's no easy task. So just like you said, it kind of was this feeling of we're all in this together. Let's all kind of band together and support each other, have a good time. And then the other thing, just like you said, like you come in and, I mean, look, all my professional career has been at Sporting Kansas City. I've got experience, going to things like, with the national team and I came up through Galaxy's Academy. So I've gotten tastes of other professional environments, spent some time at Bournemouth, got to see how their dynamic is. Nowhere that I've been or experienced or talked about is like Sporting Kansas City's locker room, in the sense that like you could come in and if you're not a weirdo, like if you come in and you're like a half decent dude and you're a cool guy, like great, we'll welcome you in.
It's
We're going
fine,
out
isn't
for
it?
dinner, we're going for a night out, we're hanging out. Like everyone is so welcoming on the team, like top dudes, and
Hmm.
it was no different when you came in or other guys come in, and it's like, all right, we have another person to basically include and be and be friends with. So that's why it was fun years. It was good years. Because we had such a big group of young players that were all
Mm.
just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, no, Dom, one name that's come up on this podcast quite a few times, just because we've had a few of the SKC boys on, is obviously Johnny.
Yeah.
And you mentioned there about taking the lads out for dinner and this and that. So Dom, I think I'd only been at the club for like a week, and then like I like went straight in with the first team, and I think after that first week or whatever, like the club sat me down and like they said that they were going to offer me something great, and then literally the next day Johnny came in the changing room and he was like, right, we're going for a team meal, we don't have a game on Saturday. And we had I think we had like I think it was like a Thursday off. It was a random one, so we
Yeah,
went
it
to
was
dinner
something
on
like
a
that.
Wednesday night. So I turned up to the dinner, and I remember I was sat. It was like the four of us in the corner. It was me, you, Brooksy, and Ty, and Wilson was there as well. So and do you remember you picked me up from that shit hotel that they had me in when they
I
first got
remember
me?
exactly. Oh,
And
there's a notorious hotel that when players come in, it's not great. So pretty quickly, players try to find apartments, places to like. It's because I think they do that on purpose to try to get guys moving. Like
yeah,
hey, go get your life situated.
literally
We're not gonna put you
settle
up in
in.
the 5-star hotel. You're gonna be
Yeah.
living there for a month on our dime.
Yeah, so anyway, I turn up to the dinner, we're around there, and this is obviously, I don't know Johnny as a person or whatever, blah blah blah. So like we're ordering food, we're ordering drinks, and like I just got a beer, like I just got something cheap or whatever. And Johnny was the only other British player on the team, and he turned around to me and he was like, "What the fuck are you drinking?" I was like, "I'm just having a beer, mate." He was like, "No, drink something proper, mate." The bloke literally clicks, brings the waiter over and sends 2 fucking glasses of Patron over to me straight away. And I was like, I'm not paying for this. He was like, don't worry. But that was the one thing, like, he was like, I remember him and Roger, like, used to split everything when we used to do
Yeah,
stuff like that. Like, they were top, weren't
yeah,
they?
Yeah,
yeah.
that's sick.
No, yeah, no. I mean, couldn't ask for a better captain, veteran type player than Johnny, and not just Johnny. I mean, guys like Tim, guys like Roger. It was really the older group of players. Johnny spearheaded most of it, I will say.
Yeah.
But just the perfect guy to have in the locker room because he's an absolute workhorse. On top of being a phenomenal player, will die on the pitch if he has to. Like, when you
Mate,
talk about
I've
a
seen
guy
that man recover
yeah,
from a
like,
torn hamstring to play in like 2
yeah,
weeks. It's ridiculous.
This guy is like, his head is different. Like, he
Yeah.
will play through some crazy injuries. He will run through a brick wall for 90 minutes, but then, he'll come off the field and make sure everyone's, having a good time, team chem, organizing stuff. I mean, I've never experienced a player that is so good at banding together a group of guys, like like really taking the initiative to set stuff up, include new guys, include young guys, include all the older guys, like, and then just making sure everyone was, enjoying themselves and everyone's needs were all sorted and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, top guy.
It's funny you say this because I don't know him. I've never met him, and we've probably had 5 or 6 boys on the pod now speak about him that I feel like I know him, and I feel like this is a foreshadowing that we got to get him on the pod. He sounds like a great guy. Like, the way everyone's
Mate.
speaking about him, I want to be friends with him as well.
No,
I'm thinking he'd take me for dinner.
That's,
Do you know what I mean?
That's the best way. That's like the best way you could describe him, is like the guy you want to be friends with, because he's hilarious. Like, one of the funniest guys you'll ever meet. Like, just good vibes, good energy. Like, just a good guy to be around. He's somebody you want to be friends with for sure. He's a cool dude.
Yeah,
And a hell of a player,
100%.
As well.
Well, mate, what a player.
Yeah.
But I mean, just want to bring it back to you a second though, mate, and come back into sort of 2025. Obviously, taking the starting role and whatnot. So I know you played last night, a 2-2 draw. But when you look back, right, and you think about all of the hard work and this and that and whatever, how do you think that's prepared you, not only because you're a good goalkeeper, you've been a goalkeeper since you were a kid, like, you know how to do that, but what's different now, like, mentally, like, how's that changed for you, stepping into that starting role, as opposed to, let's call a spade, like watching most games and traveling, knowing you're not going to play? It's a different pressure.
It's completely different. Like, I knew it was going to be a bit different going into this year, but not as different as it turned out to be.
Yeah.
It's look, when you're a number 2, you're, looking at the calendar and checking when the cup games are, and you're checking when, this is, maybe a dense part of the schedule. We've got 6-7 games this month. Maybe I'll get this one. And you're talking with the goalkeeper coach, like, hey, what's the plan for me? Which games am I going to get this year? And you have so much time to kind of think about those games leading up to them that, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, that sometimes you build it up a little too much. Like, oh, this is going to be my one game in a 3-4 month stretch. I've got to, do something special, or I got to be perfect in this game. But then it's also, which might not be the best, but then it's also good because you have time to prepare, and however the game goes, you then have time to really digest it and, look at the good moments, look at the bad moments, and kind of exhale a little bit. You kind of get that weight off your shoulders. Like, okay, I played, a good game. Now I can, go back to work, go back to training where there is no pressure really. And now it's just 180 degrees different of good game, bad game. After that game's over, yes, you're looking at it, you're analyzing it, but you're taking those notes. You just have to compartmentalize in your brain of, like, the things you're trying to continuously work on and get better at, while also now, okay, you don't have 2 months to kind of, exhale a little bit and then start prepping for your next game. It's like, I mean, for example, this week is a perfect example. Played away at Portland on a Saturday, flew back and had a midweek game away to St. Louis Wednesday. And then now, I mean, that was just last night.
Yeah.
And now I have another away game on Saturday back to San Diego. It's 3 away games in a week.
Mate, and
Saturday,
that's some
Wednesday,
air miles as well, by the way.
Some miles as well. I mean, especially, like, you guys coming from the UK, like, this isn't flying from, London to Manchester. This is flying, 3.5 hours.
Fucking
3.5 hours.
Fucking London to Moscow.
Yeah, exactly. This is like 3 Champo League games, like, in a week. Like, it's different in the MLS. The travel is for sure different. So it's just like, yeah, like, you play these games and then, you're so mentally locked into this one game in these moments that you're thinking about all these moments. And then, like today, I'm going over all the footage of St. Louis, and then, I'm trying to think through the game a little bit. And then all of a sudden, I have to remember, okay, well, now we have to close that tab basically and open it to watch film on San Diego. And I got to go home and do some laundry and pack because I got a flight. I got a flight tomorrow. Like,
It's mental, isn't it?
It's a crazy.
Mate, it's a funny one you touch on, because like these are things that, like, we talk about it, don't we, Dom, a couple of times. Like, these are things that people don't realize. Like, people think like playing football, yes, it's the best job in the world. It really is. But like, no one wants to be doing that. No one wants to be like getting hurt. Like you said, you've moved into a new house, mate, and like you're spending like 1 day a week there at the minute. Like sometimes you just want to put your feet up for an afternoon.
Exactly. No, like just like you said, it's the best job in the world. Wouldn't trade it for anything. But it's not like it comes with the I guess you could say negatives or the
sacrifice.
The sacrifice that people don't realize. I mean, I'm a single guy with pretty limited responsibility in terms of off the field stuff, and I feel stretched thin. I can only imagine guys with wives and families and kids. It's like, they're spending more time with me than they are their wives and kids. They don't want to spend more time with me than their wives and kids. I'll tell you that. They're sick of me, hoping I'm gonna shut up, and they're just missing their wives, and I'm over here just being a goofball. So
you touched on something interesting there. So this week, for example, people who aren't in football won't necessarily know what that schedule looks like. So like, just break it down to us. So like, you got an away game on Saturday. So what, you traveling on the Thursday before?
Friday.
Right. So you travel on the Friday, land on the Friday. You won't train on the Friday, will you?
Yeah. So the way we do it, I think some teams will do it a little differently. The way we always do it is we train in the morning here in Kansas City on the Friday. We'll have our match day -1, so day before game session.
Yeah.
Typically a bit lighter, tactical, a bit of fun. And then we fly out in the afternoons, get to wherever we're going in the evenings, have a team dinner, rest, relax, maybe have a last, night before meeting with the team, go over the lineup, go over some tactics. And then, you wake up on game day and you do your game day routine. You do your game day routine in the hotel, and then you play. So that Saturday night, and then depending on where it is and what the schedule is, sometimes we stay the night and then fly out the next morning, but most of the time we'll be flying back that same night. So, I mean, for some of these trips that we're flying back the same night, especially if we're going west where the time changes, I mean, we're getting back at 2, 3, 4 a.m. We had a trip this year. We got back from San Jose at 4:45 a.m. And yeah, I didn't get back to my house till, damn near the sun was rising, and yeah, it's brutal. And like, again, just like you said, like, that's the stuff that people don't see, of like crazy hours, crazy travel. This is on a weekend. Like, we don't get weekends. We don't get this Friday free time. It always makes me laugh. Like, people are like, oh, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, I'm working this weekend. Like, I've been working all week because the big work is on the weekend. That's what it actually is. And it's travel, and then you got to come back, and then oftentimes it's quick turnarounds. Like, you got a game coming up, so it's not like you have to go through this travel and then you get 2-3 days to kind of put yourself back together. We're lucky if we get 1 day. Oftentimes it's coming back in for recovery and in different sessions and all of that. So yeah, it's definitely a tougher schedule than I think people give the credit for.
Yeah, because if you think about it, right, like, this is something fans don't think about, and something I guess I don't even think about as well as a fan. But like, West Ham are doing terrible. I'm a West Ham fan. We're doing terrible this year. Jam, you're in the same boat. You're in the same boat. Man United are doing awful. It's all
Europa League final, mate. Europa League final. Europa League final.
Europa League's your only hope, huh? Some final that is, by the way.
Mate.
But there's no
16th, 15th in the Premier in a European final.
It stinks. It actually stinks. It stinks.
Shocking.
But my point is, there's no time to correct bad form. Like, there's no time to really get on the training pitch and work on things, because you might have a day training, but that day of training is probably not super intense, and all you're doing is gearing up for the next game. So like,
Yeah.
if there's actually a problem with the system and something's not working, there's no time to correct it. It's like, play this game, get ready for this game. All right, that went badly. All
Yeah.
right, we'll get ready for the next game, and then that went
Exactly.
badly, and then it just spirals. So it's
That's
not easy. It's not easy at
no,
all.
that's and that's a great point that you just mentioned there, and that's the part that I feel like so many people don't realize, and it's why. I mean, we say it all the time, like playing in it, and like when you guys play it, I'm sure like
Yeah.
you remember like momentum is such a big part of our sport,
Hmm.
and it's why you see so often like once teams catch bad form or get a couple bad results in a row, so easy to let that kind of spiral out of
Spiral.
control because I mean like I feel for them. I hate to see it, but like Galaxy they've won the MLS Cup last year, and then they come into this season and just a couple things don't go their way, and so easily it can spiral. It's happened to us in recent years, with us not being where we typically should be. And it's not because the team's not doesn't have the quality. It's not because the guys aren't putting in the work. It's just it's like dominoes, and it could go the opposite way as well. Once you kind of get your hot hand and you start winning games, then it's
For sure.
football's easy, and football's easy, and you're loving
Life feels great, doesn't it?
yeah, but when it's not going well and you're trying to stop the bleeding while still having to do a million other things, and you're just working on the fly, and
Yeah.
it can become very, very difficult. So that's why I mean I think it's such an important thing that plenty of teams will say. We say all the time. It's like you don't want to lose two in a row. Like don't lose two in a row. Like because two can turn into three and four, and then you start going down that path, and the longer that continues on, the harder it is to kind of reel it back in. So it's
Yeah.
always on to the next, but try to keep it steady.
Yeah, nice. One thing I forgot to ask before, mate, and this is kind of just jumping back into
Yeah.
sort of that, I guess, routine aspect, right? But listen, no disrespect. What do goalkeepers do in training?
In training.
Like,
Oh, my days.
you're just booting a ball at each other.
Yeah, a lot of that. No, look, I always say,
For fuck's sake.
we've
Like,
got,
what? Like, I'm sorry. When you say you're looking over the game, like, I get it, right? You probably
Yeah.
say like, "Oh, I could have moved my feet quicker," or like tip that one out the top corner.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
but what? Like, at the end of the day, you're just gonna go back on the training pitch and volley balls at each other.
Yeah, and some degree of truth to that. But no, yeah, I mean, look, it comes to a point, especially when you are playing well and things are going good, and there's not like anything in particular that's really sticking out of like a reoccurring, I guess, error or
Yeah.
flaw. Then yeah, then it does. It gets pretty routine in terms of just hey, let's look at what the other team likes to do. Let's look at, how are they creating their chances? How are they scoring their goals? And then you just try to replicate what they do. If
Mhm.
you play against a team that's, dumping balls into the box and crossing, well, then that week I'm just going to be taking a ton of crosses and header, replicating headers and things like that. But in some way, shape, or form, it ends up just being, yeah,
So it's like
somebody lumping a ball, whether it's from distance or from close range or from across.
Yeah.
It's me just
'Cause,
trying to
mate,
keep
like-
the ball out of the net. But
Because I don't know about you, Dom, yeah, but like I think you lot are nuts. Like I think you've got to have a screw loose to enjoy getting the ball smacked at you. And there's one thing that you
Yeah.
do like better than most goalkeepers I've ever seen do it,
uh,
and that is. Oh, wait, have I dropped out here? Have I dropped out? No, I'm back.
No, you're
No,
right.
sorry.
You're good.
Yeah. Now, one thing that you do better than most goalkeepers that I've seen is you come out and you spread like
Yeah, they all
ridiculously
spread.
well,
Yeah.
like, and you
Yeah.
make yourself so big. But I'm just talking as a bloke here, right?
Yeah.
Like, how are you wearing a box when you play? Because like I'm not jumping into anything spread eagle when some geezer's about to fucking smash it at me. Like, you got some stones, mate.
Yeah. No. So, couple points you made. One, having a screw loose and maybe being a bit of a of a wild guy. Look, it's a stereotype of the position, but like some stereotypes, they come from a place of a little bit of truth, and
Yeah.
I think it's helpful. I genuinely do. Maybe not a requirement, but is a nice thing to have if you are a bit of a yeah, kind of that strong personality, or a little bit of a careless personality, where you're willing to do some things that most people maybe aren't the first in line to do. So look, I mean, and I've always been that. I've always been a kind of a high energy, uh, wild child growing up, and that's why I think I probably got stuck in goal early on, was because when everyone else was, turning their heads,
Yeah.
not wanting to be the guy, I was like, oh, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Uh,
It wasn't because you were the worst player, no.
oh no, far from it, far from it. Maybe because I couldn't run.
Sorry, mate.
I have a worse fitness.
I've seen you in possession, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah. That part comes and goes. That part comes and goes. But man, no, I couldn't run, and I was just a crazy guy. So it just worked out. And then yeah, as for you said coming out and spreading, I appreciate that compliment. But yeah, that's always been such a big part of my game. It's definitely I won't say like my specialty or like what I'm best at, but it's a strength of mine for sure. There's 1v1s, and I've always been funny enough, I was just having this conversation with a young goalkeeper I was talking to, and like he was asking, about different situations and different scenarios, and it's something I've always said, and I'm sure you'll agree. Is like it applies to all positions and most things in sport and in life. It's rarely are things like black and white, right way and wrong way. Like there's situations on the field. I'll keep it in the context of soccer that you know two different guys can do something, can be two different styles. You
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a bit of individual choice on the field. Of course, there's some scenarios where no, there's a right decision and a wrong decision, but sometimes there's multiple choices. In the context of like goalkeeping, I've always been a more aggressive goalkeeper. It's just
Yeah.
how I've always played. It's what I was best at. That's what came naturally to me. I grew up watching guys like Tim Howard represent the U.S. and kind of looking up to him, and he was such an aggressive goalkeeper. Really really quick off his line. Somebody who was coming out and using angles, and then as a result, a lot of the goalkeeping coaches I worked with kind of saw that natural tendency I had,
Yeah.
and kind of had the same philosophy of use angles, use the space to close down the ball. You give yourself the best chance, and that's just kind of how I've always played, and I've been able to kind of not gonna say master, but
Yeah.
get a decent handle and decent grasp on how to play 1v1s and how to use my body. Whereas some other keeper, you watch a lot of the world's best today, they don't play that way. They
Yeah.
stay real close to the line. They are moving their feet, and they're picking balls out of corners, and it's two different ways, but it's not necessarily a right or wrong way. And that's just what I was explaining to this person is like,
Yeah.
you could have two different scenarios. If a guy's dribbling on an angle, I might elect to come out and take a ball to the face, chest, arms, block the angle, and use my body. Some guy might be standing right next to his post on his line, waiting to make a more of a diving save
Yeah.
and to kind of claw it out.
Mate, it's so interesting, like, because I just look at you and I think, like, you will dive, you will catch, you will punch, like, do you know what I mean? But like, it's interesting, like, it's actually very insightful for me to like you actually see stylistically, like, goalkeepers have a certain way. I mean,
Absolutely, yeah.
because to me, I go, they either punt it long or they play out. That's the only two different styles.
Yeah, you're either a ball playing GK or you're not. No, the goalkeeping itself as well. The goalkeeping itself as well, for sure. For sure.
Oh,
But
class.
it's funny you say that because I always think about like US soccer in general, and I think
Yeah.
about goalkeepers, And I think America, in terms of all of their players, and it's got better over time, but America's always produced good goalkeepers. And you think about some of the good goalkeepers in the past, like a Brad Friedel or a Tim
Yeah,
Howard, for example. They've always
Howard.
produced really good
Yeah.
goalkeepers. And you mentioned something earlier about, you come through at Galaxy, obviously, at Swan Academy, you said you had a stint at Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Probably because, these Premier League clubs are looking into America and thinking, they've always had some good talent. So just tell us a little bit about your experience there, going there probably about 17 or 18 and how that came
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, no, it was such a fantastic experience. I was 17. I was playing for Galaxy's Academy at the time, and I was doing pretty well for myself. I was in the national team, the youth national team system with the U.S. Since I was 14, 13, 14, playing for the youth national team system, and playing for, at the time, was probably the best academy in the country. We had made it to three academy finals, the national finals, lost all three, but but
Brilliant.
just that consistency, and we kind of had that reputation of being the team to beat, and some of the guys I played in with academy are just phenomenal talents. With that said, as good as that development academy was that they had, at the time at Galaxy, there was just a ceiling above that academy. It was just so difficult to break in to the first team and even to the second team at that time. Like, Galaxy is a great club. It's the club I grew up supporting. It's a club I grew up watching. It'll always be like special to me in that sense that, like, this is the club that really got me into soccer, and it was going to Galaxy games that I decided, I want to be playing in this stadium one day. But they've always just had this model where they want big names. They want guys that are marketable, and have the name and have the history, and it's LA and it's Hollywood, and you've seen that throughout their history with guys like
Yeah. I mean,
Beckham.
Becks. Yeah.
Yeah, they had Becks.
Gerrard,
That's
yeah.
yeah, Gerrard, Ibrahimović.
Yeah,
Like,
fucking hell, I forgot Zlatan was there.
and
Jesus.
yeah, like I was there with Zlatan, and like it was crazy, like being an academy kid and walking around, because over at Galaxy, the academy used the same facility. First team, second team, and academy was all in the same facility.
Wow.
So we would be walking around, like, helping the kit man, like, bag balls or pump balls up or something, and then Zlatan's walking in to grab his boots, and we're all like trying to seek pictures with him and stuff while getting
Wait, he gets his own boots?
Stuff. Well, like, taking them off the pegs, or he'd be like taking them off the pegs or something.
They didn't employ someone for that.
They probably, I wouldn't be surprised, probably, but he would just be like walking around or something, and then we would be like, oh, like, so, can we get a picture, and all this stuff, and yeah, it was just crazy. But going on a bit of a side tangent there, but anyway, when you have a first team like that, it's very, very difficult for a 16, 17, 18-year-old. Regardless, I mean, we were good players, and just the opportunity to I guess graduate into the first team was very, very difficult, and not a lot of us did, from a team that has now produced. I mean, you're talking about an academy team that's produced 5 or 6 pros, which is from one team, like one age group, producing 5 or
That's
6 pros.
unheard of.
Yeah,
You're
that's,
lucky
like,
to to get one.
one.
To be
I'm
honest.
hoping for 1 or 2. Like, I'm hoping 1 or 2 from this team goes pro. We had, I think, 6 now that are all playing either in Europe, MLS, or USL. So the fact that none of us broke into the first team at Galaxy, except for one player, Ephra, was the only one who went on to I guess have a bit of a career at Galaxy. So kind of seeing that, and seeing some of the older age groups before me kind of struggle, I'm thinking, oh, well, if they're struggling to get first team contracts, then I might be in the same boat. But I was doing real well, and I had developed a bit of a reputation, at least in the U.S. youth soccer world, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
As a pretty decent keeper, so started getting approached by agents and whatnot, and yeah, it was just kind of trying to navigate it all. It was all new, foreign stuff to me. Until one guy called me that I had kind of been talking to, that I was getting along with, and and he just called me one day and said, "Look, I got a flight for you in 2 weeks. Want you to go on trial at Bournemouth. I got it all set up. They're real interested in you, and if you're open to it, then we'll get you out there." And I obviously this was in 2018, Premier League club. Obviously at that point it's a no-brainer. I think I started packing my bag right then and there, and yeah, decided that was my time to leave Galaxy. They weren't too happy with me at the time. But it was an opportunity I didn't really think I could pass
you
up.
can't turn that down.
Yeah,
No.
no, exactly. So I went out there, was training with the 23s. I was 17 years old at the time, and I was on trial with the 23s, and after 2 days, they sat me down and said, "Look, we want to sign you to a 23s contract." We were like, "What you see, this is great." And the agent that had set this up at the time, where he did great sending me there. It was brilliant. But again, I'm 17. This is all foreign to me. He kind of failed to explain or failed to get the point across to me that it was going to be extremely difficult for me, outright impossible for me to sign a professional contract for Bournemouth, given that I don't have a European passport.
Yeah.
And being 17 with no first team games, no senior national team games. I was just a youth international academy player, so my resume wasn't going to get me, the foreign player work permit. So I was going in there just completely unaware of that.
Oh yeah, you're just a kid that's going to play football somewhere. Like
I'm signing with Bournemouth. This is sick.
literally.
Like this dream come true. Like there we go. So they sat me down with this contract, and Bournemouth, obviously now we see them killing it, and the club has grown so much even in the past 4 or 5 years. But at the time then they weren't necessarily signing, and this was pre-Brexit. They weren't necessarily.
This was pre.
Yeah, this was 2018.
Oh shit! I thought this was after. So it was that hard to get visas before that as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So basically, the way I ended up learning that it worked was, they're looking at first team appearances or appearances in a top flight league, or senior national team appearances, which I had none of.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's not many 17-year-olds in the world that are playing week in, week out in any fucking men's level.
Exactly.
Let alone the MLS and for the US.
Yeah, exactly. So,
if you were, you wouldn't be fucking on trial with Bournemouth.
I'd be doing all right.
Yeah.
For the 23s, So
yeah.
So look, I was there, and then even they were kind of like, okay, but now we need to look at the visa situation, because as far as we know, you don't have a passport, right? And I said, no, I don't have a passport. They said, okay, well, we're gonna, and this is the coaches and the GM and the front office people of the club, and they said, okay, well, let's talk to our people, and they were kind of going through their stuff behind the scenes, and I was just staying in digs and training with the first team and the second or 23s, kind of bouncing between the both. And essentially they had submitted the contract to the FA, which immediately was turned around and said, denied, and no, this isn't going to get approved, because he's, not a European, he doesn't have an EU passport. And then they, came back, told me, and they said, okay, there's, essentially an appeal process that we're going to go through, to try to get this approved. And I forget how many appeals they ended up doing, but I ended up staying in England, training there and playing friendlies and non-official matches for about 7 months.
7 months.
Yeah, it's from about June to December.
And you're earning no money whilst doing this?
No. So I mean, they made sure I was.
They looked after you.
They looked after me. And I was in digs, so I had meals, house, and then they looked after me with.
But 7 months, regardless, 7 months is ridiculous.
And I was 17. I was 17, so I wasn't coming from making money. You know, I was an academy kid, so
Yeah,
for me,
yeah.
it
Oh,
was
yeah.
just
Of course. Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
so for me, it was just really the same thing I had been doing, you know, for the past rest of my life, basically, or in my life so far. So in that sense, it was really just the same thing. But yeah, so 7 months of me not giving up the hope and dream, and yeah, basically went through their early season and the first half of their season, from early or late summer to December, and finally December rolled around, and they had, you know, whatever number, 3, 4, 5 appeals, that had all been denied, and finally in December, yeah, they sent me down and were like, "Look, John, we've been trying left and right to make this work, to try to hold on to you, but you know, it's been a few months now, or you
Yeah.
know, more than a few months, and we don't want to like basically hinder you or stand in your way. So we want to help you move on to a club." Um, and which sucked. It was heartbreaking to hear a
Oh, I can
Premier League
imagine.
club say, "We want you, but we, you know, kind of have our hands tied."
Mm.
So I
It
was
literally was. It's
distraught.
not you, it's me. It's
It literally was. It's not you. It, it
It's never
literally.
good, no matter
It's
who's
never
saying
good.
it.
No matter who's saying it, it's a horrible thing to hear. You know, it's exactly that. It literally was. It's not you. We love you. We want you, but our hands are tied, and I'm just thinking there. Are you kidding me? I left LA to like come make my life, you know, make my career here, and
Yeah.
I was so excited about it. But look, at the end of the day, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything.
Mm.
One, it gave me the confidence to say to myself, like, okay, I can play at this level. Like, I came to this club at a young age, and within 2 days, they were saying, "We got it. Like, we want to sign you." And yeah, that gave me the confidence to, or just, you know, remind myself, like, okay, like this is an obtainable dream.
Mm.
So I think that's like, I mean, I was always a hard worker. I've always just kind of had a love for this game where I want to work hard. I want to do stuff, you know, do extra and go shoot, you know, take shots and do extra bits of training. But I think that like kick started it even a little bit more, of like, okay, I can do this, you know, I can go play at the highest level. So I just started working crazy hard and went on a few other trials around Europe. Went to Portugal for a bit. Wasn't like just yeah, wasn't a great experience in Portugal. Um, yeah, I went to a club there, Rio Ave.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's a good club, top flight club. But you know, I was coming from Bournemouth where they had this nice facility, and I'm in the south of England on the
Yeah.
coast and the beach, and you know, everyone speaks English, and I love
That,
life,
yeah.
and it was great. And then I went to, you know, the smaller, older club in Portugal, much different setup, and yeah, you know, I was all of a sudden now I felt like, okay, now I'm a foreign player here,
You
and
feel it like in
and
probably day-to-day life as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
day to day life, and I think I had some residual frustration, like
Yeah, but that's natural
anger.
though. Like, did you think
Yeah,
like in a way, like, was it a little bit like, you felt like everything was just sort of going against you? Because
that was exactly
it
it.
was
Yeah.
nothing to do. I mean, mate, I feel like I've said this 3 times this episode already, but how many times have we said it in previous episodes? Like, most of the time in football, it literally, I'd say, I think being good at football is probably 60% of what actually gets you over the line. Because there's so
It's true.
much other shit that people don't know about. Like, I'm sorry,
No,
like,
it's so true.
I'm
It's so
sorry, like,
true.
you got told by a Prem club that they wanted
Yeah.
to sign you after two
No,
days,
it's
and it's
so
something
true.
to do
Like,
with a visa. You know what I
yeah,
mean? That's got nothing to do with you catching a football.
yeah,
Damn, I had to think.
exactly.
Damn, I had to think about you, right? Didn't you go to Bury,
Mm,
right, and get a contract there, and then a couple of weeks later, or whatever, the club folds?
yeah,
Yeah,
So, like,
mate,
in another
sums it up.
life, in another life,
so
Jam,
mate,
you go to Bury, you smash it up, you go to the
2 year deal in
championship.
League One at
Yeah.
20,
You go to the
like,
you go to the champion, you smash it up, you go to the championship, you have a great season, you go to the playoffs, you get promoted, all of a sudden you're 22
Yeah,
playing in the Prem. That's
you're
how
playing,
football can
and,
go.
and that's
Like,
and,
it's
and that's how
mad.
it happens. And that's why, like, it's so funny too. Like, you like always hear like, oh, like this player came out of nowhere, or like we always say it, or like I always say it to like young players, like your life can change in a couple months.
Mm.
Like the reality, like your life can change in a couple months, and like that's how going to what you're talking about, Dom. It's like timing and the right time, right place, and a little bit of luck in terms of that. The chance that kind of comes along with it. The right person watching the right game, or you're just in the right team. The right situation can do wonders for your career, and you have a good couple months and it works out. All of a sudden, you've kind of got that hype around you or that buzz around you, and all of a sudden everything's different. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely went through that, or at least I felt like I was going through it in that moment. Went to Portugal, wasn't loving it. Then went to Germany for a bit. I was in Hamburg, for a few weeks training
They've
with
had a few
them.
American lads, haven't they?
They have, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. Were you here with Trevion Sosa?
Yeah, Trey Sosa,
Yeah, so
yeah.
he was at Hamburg.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember.
I think back in the day, like Bobby Wood played for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that I was, real excited for that. I was like, all right, cool. I got a trial at Hamburg. Like this will be good, and I went there and it was great. Loved it. Trained well. They had offered me a 23s contract for the remainder of the season. Mind you, this was just after the new year. So I'm sitting there in January, training with Hamburg, and it's raining every day and all that, but I didn't care. I was just so football focused.
Yeah.
So they had offered me a contract just to the end of the season, and then they said they were gonna kind of reevaluate their goalkeeping room at the end of the season. But then it was kind of weird. So they were like, "Yeah, like we love you, you're great. This is all working out. But we're only gonna offer you this because." In reality, we have a young guy, same guy in my same age group, same birth year, who they were real big on. He was a South Korean international and was kind of their guy. And they just flat out told me, like, look, we kind of have this young keeper coming up that we're real big on, and we're going to be kind of graduating him into the first team from the 23s, at the end of this season. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, well, why are you having me in on trial? Why are you having me in on trial?
Were you wasting my time?
Yeah,
Like
this is
honestly,
great,
wasting
and
each other's time.
yeah, and like I'm happy that you'd love to have me until the end of the season, but like what good does that really do
What's the
either of us
point?
if you're basically saying there's not really a path to the first team because we
Well,
already
and I take
have
it
our
this
minds
bloke's
made
playing
up
for
on this other guy.
I take it that this bloke's playing in the 23s at that time as well.
At the time, yeah. So at the time,
Yeah,
he was
so
their 23
so you're just training. You're a training player.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, all right, like
Yeah.
don't love the sound of that. I love the idea of coming to play for a big club like Hamburg, but they were pretty much telling me like, look, it's going to be real hard for you to kind of surpass this guy who we've made our mind up,
Mm.
made our mind up about. So then I was like, okay, maybe this isn't the best route for me, and yeah, it was a really low point in my life, honestly, because like I said, I'd gone from playing in the top academy, going to England, and then Germany, and then out of nowhere, I'm feeling like I don't really have a home, and I don't have a club. I felt like
Yeah.
I'm no longer an academy player. Like I gotta turn professional here. I gotta sign somewhere. So I came back to the States for a little bit. It was just back home in California with my family and training, working out, staying fit, and trying to figure out what I was gonna do. And funny enough, I was talking to a few different MLS teams and kind of surveying my options. And just one day, yeah, an old academy goalkeeper coach that I hadn't spoken to since I was like 14 years old. He was the academy goalkeeper coach at the time, Sporting Kansas City. He had tried to get me to come out to Kansas City when I was like 14, 15.
Mm.
Didn't end up going. That's when I joined LA Galaxy's academy. Hadn't spoken to him in ages, and he just called me up one day and was like, hey, he had just been keeping tabs on me basically, and was like, hey, what are you doing? Like, what's your situation like? And we talked and just got caught up with each other, and he said, like, look, no pressure. Come out to Kansas City. I think you'll really, really like it. I think this could be a good place for you. Mind you, this was 2019 at this point,
Mm-hmm.
early 2019, like February 2019. Um, And he's like, oh, Timmy's an older keeper. You come here, spend a couple years, working your way up through the teams.
Just a couple.
And yeah, just a couple years.
The guy just kept playing.
And then the guy just kept on going. But I tease Timmy about that all the time. I'm like, the whole reason I came out to Kansas City was because you were supposed to retire in 2-3 years. It turned out to be 7. But I was like, all right, Kansas City, I don't know about that. But again, at the time, I was so football focused that I was like, all right, let's do it. So I went out to Kansas City, and then trained and liked the facilities top. Funny enough, I had actually done a national team camp the year prior when I was still at Galaxy at their facility. And we were always, you're 17, 16 at this national team camp. This place is awesome. People come here every day.
Mate,
like,
this is Dom,
unreal.
Honestly, like
Unreal facility.
It's unbelievable there.
Yeah,
I've seen some nice training grounds in my time. Like it's top, man. It's so nice.
It's a different level training facility. So I thought, I went out there for that one camp, and it was a sick training facility. So I'll at least go check that out.
Yeah.
And then so I went out there, trained, and again, this was probably by the time I had gone out there and trained, it was March at that point. So MLS season had started, preseason being in January. So they were kind of already starting their season. So they had, their roster basically decided already. And they were talking to me and they said, look, we really, really like you. We don't want to lose you to another club. We already have our 3 first-team keepers, and we don't have room on the first team. But we see a clear path for you here. You're without a home, so we're trying to give you one.
Yeah.
Come, sign with the second team, play,
Is that when it was still Swope?
That was still that. That was when it was still Swope. So
yeah.
And then at that time, I was just eager to get started somewhere. Just to land somewhere and get to work. So that's what I did, and I signed my first professional contract in the USL with Swope Park Rangers. And yeah,
it's
it was
mad.
great. And then I
went
out there at the end of March, right before my 18th birthday. And yeah, made my debut within a couple weeks. When I had just turned 18 or just before I turned 18, played the remainder of that season with the second team. So till the fall, I was playing with Swope Park Rangers in the USL, and then at the end of that season, I remember when I got the call from the GM.
Was it Bliss?
It was Blissy at the time. Our
director. Yeah.
Blissy called me. I was outside Brooksie's apartment. Jamil knows Brooksy real well, so we were all just hanging out one night, and I was literally just leaving. It was like 10 p.m. at night. It was so weird. I literally got in my car, was about to drive back to my place, and Blissy calls me and is like, "Hey, we're signing you to the first." He didn't even it wasn't an offer, it wasn't an ask. He just called me. We're signing you to the first team. And I was like, okay.
You don't have a choice.
I'm like, I don't really have any other options here right now, so deal.
Deal, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all right, deal. So he's like, look, the first team, keep an eye, call your agent, and keep your eye on your email, and we'll get it all sorted. And yeah, it was a great feeling, obviously, knowing like, okay, this little gamble to sign with the second team has paid off. I had a good year, and I worked crazy hard that year. Funny enough about that year, I mean, a little context, Jamil. So I came back. I was the worst dude in terms of like, I was in England, loving life. Portugal, hated life. Germany, frustrated with that whole situation. Yeah. So I was just not in a good place when I first moved out to Kansas City. And
you just had a bit of a chip on your shoulder?
I mean, not a bit. Like, it was both. I look back on it and I joke with some of those guys that I played with that first year. Anytime we catch up, and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I was an asshole. I was an asshole to the people around me. I worked harder than anyone in the whole city. I was like on top of my stuff. So I will give myself credit for that, but then I'll also put my hand up and say I was just yeah, you know when you just are like in that mood, like I was just in a mode, I was in a zone of
Yeah.
like I'm coming here to make my career what I know it can be. I feel like I just got something taken away from me, and I'm not letting anybody stand in my way. I'm
Yeah.
not here to make friends. I'm not here to, enjoy being a soccer player. I'm coming here to become the best player I could be, and I do seriously think like I needed a year or two like that, like before I could kind of settle down and go back to more of I was still working like crazy and still kind of having that killer mentality. Like, of course, I still have that. But I was in a phase where like it was all of that to the point where yeah, I was just barking at guys constantly, like stirring up
I've had
fights
that
in the
one.
locker room.
I've
Like,
had that one.
because yeah, I mean, because you do, yeah, you got like 25, 26 year olds like playing well, but like they've been doing it for a few years now, and they're just doing what we call the USL grind. Like it's because it's tough.
Yeah.
It's a tough job, and they're just kind of grinding away with a bit more of a casual approach of like, hey, we got training, let's go hang out and do whatever. And I'm over here thinking like, nah, this needs to be run like a prem team. Like this needs to be
Yeah,
locked
yeah.
in. So I'm over here yelling at guys for not being professional and just ripping guys' heads off
It's
that
mad
are
he's doing that 18 as well.
6, 7, 8 years my senior, and they're thinking, who the hell is this kid?
Yeah.
Came out of nowhere and started telling us how to handle our careers, and I'm just. Oh, I look back on it. I'm like, I'm surprised somebody didn't punch me in the face at some point.
It's
But,
because you've always been a bit bigger than most people, mate. To be fair. That's probably the one thing that's kept you out of trouble.
if I was like, yeah, if I was like a small midfielder or something, I probably would have gotten
Yeah,
hit or
right.
something because
Yeah.
I was coming for heads that first year. But
Oh,
again,
that's funny.
it paid off. It paid off, and I've kept the good bits of that in my personality while also easing up a little bit. And that year, I learned a lot. I learned kind of how professional sports really works, and you got to get along with the guys you're around, and yeah, it's just yeah, it was a great experience. And then yeah, obviously
Love
going
it.
up into the first team, it was another one of those transitions. I mean, we were talking earlier about the transition I went through this year. I could look back on my career and say like, okay, like that was a big checkpoint.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A big transition point, and then going to that first team from the second team was a huge transition, and then going from number 3 to number 2 was a big transition, and then you kind of stay in that realm for a little bit. So yeah, I mean that's how I landed in Kansas City, and I've been here now. I mean, it's crazy to think it's 2025. It's crazy to think I've been here 7 years, man. This is my seventh professional season with the club.
Yeah, it's mental, man. And there's a lot to
Yeah,
look back on for sure. Like,
yeah, yeah,
it's been. I mean, the journey there, like, that's wild to be honest. I
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
know. I knew the things about Bournemouth, and we've talked about that in the past. And I didn't. That's the first time I've heard the Hambo one and
yeah,
your time in Portugal. So
yeah.
you've been around, mate. You've been around.
Yeah,
So
I've been around a bit. I've been
I'm
around a bit.
I'm just happy that, like I said at the start, like all that hard work's coming to fruition now. So as
Yeah.
we sort of look forward, um, and not sure how familiar you are with the show, mate, but this is the part of the show where I pass it over to Dom,
Okay.
and he's going to take you through extra time on the
All right.
Backstick podcast.
All right. Let's do it.
It's been a little minute since I've got into this bag, man, so I was just stretching off
That's
there,
it.
dusting off
Let's
the
go.
cobwebs. Now for
Yeah.
extra
All
time,
right.
for extra time on the Instagram, the YouTube, the social medias. I am your host with the most. They've been commenting certain things. They're calling me Steve Harvey with a skin fade because of, the host bag that I'm getting into. So I'm going to take you through our 4 questions that we ask all of our guests. First
Okay.
question is, who is the best player you've played with?
Oh, that's a tough question.
I know.
Man, like there's so many answers to that. Best player, like outright best player. I gotta say, and I'm biased to this, and I'll explain why. But this guy Ilie Sanchez,
Oh,
Okay.
And
player.
the reason I say this,
Oh my God.
the reason I say this was he was, a staple player in our first team, for many years. But the reason I'm biased towards him was because he was a midfielder. He was a central midfielder and Spaniard who was just the calmest guy you'll ever see on the ball.
Mate, Dom's a
And
joke. He's an absolute
Yeah.
joke.
and he's a top player. Like he's a fair answer, like regardless. But I'm
Yeah.
more biased towards him because in my first year, the year I made my debut, it was 2021. Actually, it was when Jamil was with us. And came
I
out.
remember it. I was at the game.
Yeah. Made my first team debut and had gotten my first run of games. And we had injuries to all of our center backs. So we had one healthy center back in terms of our starting center backs. Was Fonti, who all the credit in the world to Andreu Fontas, another Spaniard, who he kind of goes in the same boat of this of him and Ilie. Both of them came up to me. So Ilie was a midfielder playing center back. He's not a center back at all.
No.
He did fantastic this year at center back, but he's kind of a thinner holding mid, link up type player.
He's a ball player. He's a ball player.
He's a ball player.
Yeah.
Both of them came up to me. I remember this wasn't before the debut. This was a couple games in, and they just came up to me and they said, "Look, if you ever get the ball and you don't know what to do with it, just kick it to one of us. Like you can kick it at my chest, kick it at my head, my left foot, my right foot. If you ever get the ball and you see a forward pressing you, at this point I'm 20 years old. I'm, a bit nervous, trying to figure it out. My first ever MLS games. And they just came to me and said, just in the calmest way, most comforting voice, just go out and do your thing. And if you ever get the ball and you don't know what to do with it, and you see, like, you don't even have to look. Don't even look. Just know I'm over there. Kick it over there.
Just kick it to me.
And I'll deal with it.
Oh, yeah. Man, that's ledge.
I remember just thinking, like, bro, I'm going to stitch you up. Like, don't tell me that. I will do it, and you're going to get the ball picked off you, and it's not going to be good for both of us. And they're like, no, don't worry about that. Don't worry about
mate,
that.
And you know Peter's siding with them as well. You're getting dug out for that, no matter what.
Yeah, well, it wasn't even me worried about that. Like, I was worried about them, I don't want to be responsible for stitching them up, and then they messed up. I did it, and literally I would get the ball, and I would have, I'm just freaking out, and I'd have a forward, a 6-foot forward just sprinting at me at what felt like 100 miles an hour, and I would literally just put it in his general direction with another guy running at him. I mean, the ball could be choppy, bouncy, again, at his left foot, right foot, touch, chop a guy, pass. I'm just like, oh, it really is that easy for him, huh? It really is that simple for him. So long-winded answer, but yeah, Ilie, I got Ilie. But there's so many others.
Top player, man. Top player.
I could name as well.
All right. Well, even more tough, equally tough question then. Right. Who's the best player you've played against?
Oh, another tough question. Again,
translation. Who's banged on you the most?
So that's where I was going with that. Was a long list of names I could name. Like, I've played against some top guys. I mean, let me tell you some of the guys that have not only have played against but have scored on me is Gareth Bale,
wow,
Nani,
wow,
Chicharito has scored a ton on me. I'm trying to think of like the big name players like
Zlatan, Carlos Vela.
Luckily I came in after those guys had tapered off.
Right.
Oh, I remember one game against LAFC. I was on the bench, ready to go, but young. Few games under my belt, playing LAFC, and we were having a real good year, and they were having a real good year. So two top teams, and it's 0-0, and Timmy goes down. Timmy does his hamstring, and I'm obviously like, all right, like this is a big moment in the game. Second half, 0-0 game against a top team. 3 minutes into me being on the field, Chicho Arango gets on the ball, and this was back when Chicho Arango was at LAFC, and this guy has the hardest shot. Him and Bouanga have the two hardest shots I've ever seen in my life. Like like outrageous. I get on the field, don't have 0 touches on the ball. It's the, whatever minute, 50 something minute. He gets the ball left corner of the 18. I'm, standing, on a decent angle, thinking like, all right, what's he gonna do? I don't even register seeing the ball before it's in the top near, like in the upper corner of the near post as well. So I'm probably thinking, yeah, he's hit it well, but maybe I should save. No chance. To this day, I don't think I'm saving that ball. He's hit it so hard. 10 minutes after that, I'm 1v1 with Gareth Bale, and he dinks it around me. And now we lose the game 2-0. I'm just thinking, like, that was a welcome to the league. Like, I had a few games under my belt, but that was a welcome to the league moment. So because of that, I'll have to say Chicho Arango, somebody who I don't love playing against. But then I also will have to say Cucho Hernandez. Used to play at Columbus, killed it at Columbus. Colombian, I'm pretty sure. He's outrageous. I mean, that guy's bullied me. I've only played against Columbus twice. In both games, he bullied me. I'm pretty sure one of the games he had a hat trick. So
I've never heard a goalkeeper say I got bullied.
Oh, I got bullied. Yeah, no, Columbus bullied me. Columbus bullied me. They bullied us.
Oh my god! Was that the
terrible experience?
Oh my god, that's so funny. Because we've all heard the shirts. We've all heard the shouts in me, like from corners, like we'll say like I'll stick it on him or like whatever.
Yeah.
But for the keeper to actually say they bullied me,
yeah, absolutely bullied me. Like he get it's bad, and like he gets the ball, and I'm just like fuck, like. What's he gonna do? Is he gonna chip me? Is he gonna curl it top corner? Is he gonna dribble it around me? And like it's not a good feeling to have.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
So for that reason, I gotta say Cucho Hernandez.
Love it. Right.
Right.
Next one. Where are we? Yeah, I'm sorry, I lagged out for a second there in my brain.
I'm trying to take my job for fuck's sake. Right. Yeah. This is the third question, and this is going to be the most hard question that you've had as part of extra time. Everyone always stutters on this one. You ready?
I know this is going to be tough for you as well.
Past or present teammates to go on a night out with, who would they be?
Stutter on this one? No, it was easy.
Nah, no, because you're gonna have to leave one out. You're gonna have to leave one out.
I said that because like a couple names popped into my head, and then about 15 names popped in my head. 3 is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my god, 3 is crazy. Okay, I'm gonna cheat your question.
He's gonna say 4. I know he's gonna say 4.
No, I'm not gonna say 4. I'm gonna say I've got some former teammates that are to this day some of my best friends. We've talked about them already. Wilson, Brooks, and Tyler Freeman. All 3 guys. A guy named Brooks Thompson, Wilson Harris, and Tyler Freeman. Those are like my 3 best friends. Played with them all. So for the sake of the question, I'm leaving them out because those are the 3.
Very, very smart, mate.
Yeah, I'm cheating the question. I'll give them the shout out as my good friends. They know, I've had plenty of nights with them, and I've hung out with them plenty, so I'm leaving them out. I'm going 3 other than those guys.
Okay.
And I'll leave out Jamil too because this is his podcast. So I'm not.
Right, mate. I get picked every other week, mate. So it's fine.
I'm lumping you in the group of those guys of like exempt from the question, right? Because you're making the list in that regard.
There you go. Appreciate it, mate.
But yeah, look, I gotta say, Johnny, he's great for fun. He's just such a funny guy. I'm gonna throw Tim Melia out there. Me and Timmy got along so well. We worked together for so long. Our personalities, our humor just clicks real well. So Timmy Melia, Johnny, and then this is tough. I was gonna say I would get the old band back together with some of the more recent years, last year and the year before of Andreu Fontas and Daniel Shallowy. that was kind of our group for preseasons and spend some time off the field together. Fontas is one of the funniest guys.
Yeah,
One
Fonte's
of the
class.
nicest guys ever. But like, get him outside of this facility, get him outside away from the footy, and he's hilarious. He's like the sleeper funny. Like Johnny's the guy that everyone knows is funny and is funny, but gets all the credit for being funny. Fonte's like the sleeper funny that like doesn't get the credit for being the funny guy, but once you hang out with him and get to know him, he's hilarious. So and then same with Timmy. Timmy's a crack up. So I gotta throw in the old guys. It's an old group. It's a very old group. Johnny's still playing, just moved to RSL. But he's well into his 30s, and then Timmy and Fonte are retired. So I'm picking some old heads. I like the old guys.
Experience, mate. Experience.
Yeah, exactly. They've got the experience.
Mate,
I don't know.
all got misses, all got wives and kids, so you can clean. You can just clean up. That's what you're going for.
Maybe that's why I like hanging out with them. Maybe that's a great point. Maybe that's why I like hanging out with them so much. It's no competition because they're all married with kids, so they're literally just there to hang out with each other and have a laugh, and then watch me make a fool of myself trying to talk to some girls. So
yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's why I like hanging out with them so much. It's no
That's a good group. That's a good group.
I mean, you did put a disclaimer that you cheated the question, but you've named about 7 people there. So we'll move on. But
asked for 3, gave fucking 19.
Yeah. But amazing. On a more wholesome note to round us up, what is your biggest achievement on the pitch so far?
Man, these are tough questions.
Yeah, mate.
Hot seat.
Look, I got to go to the Olympics last summer.
Amazing.
And that was, I didn't play, but regardless, that was just such a personal experience for me and something I wanted so bad. Just to be on that plane going to Paris and experiencing what it's like to be on the Olympic team and to be there to witness the Olympics in person was such a cool experience for me. And then just little things along the way. My first shutout, my first clean sheet was against Galaxy. Was against the club, my boyhood club, and to get my first clean sheet against them, that was a game that I will never forget and was such a cool experience. And then every game against them is always cool for me.
Yeah,
I'm undefeated against them. I've never lost to them. So I'm hoping to keep
long
that
may
going
that continue.
Yeah, exactly. So knock on wood, I'm hoping that continues for a while. But yeah, I gotta say, going to the Olympics was something. Or another one that was like that was my first and only, but my first call up to the senior national team. I was in with the senior national team in 2021, and that was again an experience that makes you stop and kind of give yourself a pat on the back, and it's like, okay, and enjoy this moment.
Amazing. I think that's a perfect way to close out extra time.
Perfect way. Yeah.
Been a mad journey. It's been great getting to know you and just hearing all the trials and tribulations, man. Things have been so different, but everything that's happened to you and you've gone through has put you in the position you are today, right? And so, you've got the number 1 spot.
This moment,
yeah, especially for a keeper as well. You're relatively early in your career, even though you said you've been at SKC, 7 seasons, whatever. You're relatively early, so you've still got a long career ahead of you. But yeah, man, that's been extra time. I've been Dom Okus, your host for the most. And I'll pass you back to Jam to close us out.
That's awesome.
Love it, mate. Love it, mate. You summed it up perfectly, Dom. Obviously, it's a good time, I think, for us to wrap up the show. But, you summed it up perfectly. Like, it's, the trials and tribulations have got you to this point, and they've got you in a point where you're playing for a massive football club, which, fingers crossed. I was at the club for a year. They drafted me. They were my route into the professional game. I'll always be a Sporting KC fan. When people ask me which team I support in the US, it's always SKC. So, they gave me my chance, and I would have never have played without them taking a chance on me. So, I hope that you can continue playing on that team and keep playing at the high level, and hopefully we can see Sporting back at the top end of the table, because that's where the club belongs, you know.
Absolutely.
So, but like I said, it's so thank you for coming on, mate. I've really enjoyed that.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. It's great catching up. It's been a while, and I appreciate you guys having me on, and we'll have to do it again sometime. Do a little follow-up part 2 episode sometime.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Well, I look forward to that, because this one's been good. And on that note, it's my opportunity. Personally, I'd like to thank everyone who's made it this far. Thanks ever so much. It's an hour and 15 minutes. So I hope that you've enjoyed us rabbiting on. Once again, Johnny boy, thank you for coming on the pod. Dom, stellar performance as always.
That's right, mate. That's right.
And as we're heading into the weekend, everyone makes sensible bad decisions. And as always, please, as Dom said at the beginning, please like, subscribe on all the socials at the Backstick Pod. You know, get behind us. We really appreciate all the support. Let us know who you want to hear from next. But it's about that time for me to say, from myself, from Dom, and from John, thanks ever so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Cheers, guys.